Good evening, everyone. Welcome in to Vol Society Live on this Wednesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society Network and your lead analyst. And like I said, last time we talked to you, it was March Madness and Tennessee was in the Sweet 16 and we were quickly exited. But we're not talking basketball tonight. We're talking about the pigskin because we are getting very close to the Tennessee Orange and White game coming up on April the 15th at Neyland Stadium. This will be the first Orange and White game for Josh Heupel at Neyland Stadium since with all the renovations and everything that happened in the world the last couple of years. So good to have the Orange and White game back in Neyland Stadium in front of fans and a lot of excitement to transpire. We're going to talk about this 2023 Tennessee football team here tonight. We're going to break down the positions, talk about who's on the roster, the new players, old players, and I have some inside scoop of what happened in the first scrimmage. Of course, I think a lot of the media's kind of leaked it out, but I'll tell you some inside scoops of what happened in that first scrimmage and some very interesting results coming out of that. But yeah, we'll talk about the roster in general, and then we'll talk about the Tennessee schedule. This is not going to be a season prediction for me. I'll do that later on in the year, but just kind of a overview of the 2023 schedule. I think we've mentioned it a few times before, but just kind of give you an update of some of the teams that we will be facing in the upcoming season. And then we'll wrap up the night. We'll talk about some recruiting, some 2024 recruits. Just tell you who's already been recruiting, including a new player added to the list this past week, and then some of the top targets Tennessee's looking out for in 2024 since we're coming up not only with spring practice ending, but also with the obviously the new players that's going to be Tennessee's going to be targeting and eventually will be signing coming up at the end of December. So, but let's go ahead and dive into this show. Give a shout out. First thumbs up of the night going to Ryan Hughes. Shout out to Ryan who's been on the podcast before, giving us a thumbs up. Got a comment in here and hello to my grandparents watching along. So, all right, so let's go ahead and talk about this Tennessee football team and just kind of where we're at as we're getting ready to head into the Orange and White game coming up 10 days from now. So Tennessee held a scrimmage, the first scrimmage, I believe, a week ago, right around the end of March into April, and this was also the same weekend as the Tennessee High School Football Coaches Clinic. So my source that is going to tell me this information was at this Tennessee High School Football Clinic. He is a local high school football coach in the area that I live in, and a close personal friend of mine. So he was telling me as far as what he saw, because the coaches got to watch the scrimmage in person, and he was telling me that Joe Milton did not look really good in that first scrimmage. Was overthrowing passes and just kind of went back to his old self. Now, keep in mind, this is April. This is not September, October, and yeah, it's been a little while. Probably Joe Milton has thrown a football. He's thrown everything else, oranges and basketballs, in during the off season, but there was kind of some conflicting reports, and it's now kind of leaked out that he didn't have a great showing in the first scrimmage. But we shall see what happens going forward. But a lot of buzz coming out of obviously a lot of buzz coming out was Nico Iamaleava. They said Nico looks the part coming out of spring practice. His passes are very accurate. He was hitting his receivers well. Now, granted, he was mainly throwing to second and third string wide receivers, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But even my source was telling me that Nico is the part. He's got great size. He's got great accuracy, great vision for everything. So that's very promising. And now I'm going to say a quote from my friend that he told me. This is his opinion. This is not mine. But he says it wouldn't shock me if Nico becomes the starter by the end of the season. He compares it to when Clemson had Kelly Bryant a few years ago and went from Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence won the national championship. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to be national champions because of we're making a switch to Nico. I'm just saying this is what he kind of sees a comparison looking in the future, and we'll see what happens along the way. I mean, this is still, we're talking about April football here, but it's something that we're going to have to kind of keep our eye out on, not only through spring practice but maybe into fall camp. Is Joe Milton really the guy? And we've went this before. Kind of the 2 years ago after that Bowling Green game, and we all know what eventually happened. But something to keep our eye out on. And as far as wide receivers go, Brew McCoy is out for spring practice. So if you're going to the orange and white game, Brew will not be playing in that game. But I'm sure he'll be there probably in dressed out, but he just won't play. Ramel Keaton has been banged up in spring practice, so your X and Z receivers already, not playing much. Squirrel White pretty much was kind of running the X, but he's mainly a wide receiver, also on the outside. But great. Also, Dante Thornton, the transfer from Oregon, was also out of spring practice. But a lot of great buzz coming out of Chaz Nimrod, filling in very well. Caleb Webb, Nathan Leacock. So the freshman wide receivers filling these voids that, not having Brew, not having Keaton, not having Thornton in spring practice, that they've really elevated. And of course, Nico's very familiar with these guys in the short time he's been there, so there's some chemistry already going on with them. So good stuff out of there. Good stuff coming out of the tight end room with McAllen Castles, the transfer from UC Davis. It seems like he's fit very well in this Josh Heupel offense. So good stuff to hear there. Hadn't really heard much from Jacob Warren, which is a little not really surprising either. Offensive line, they have moved Gerald Mincy over from the left tackle over to right tackle, and put Jeremiah Crawford on the left side. Kind of a test to see what's going to happen there. Of course, remember last year Crawford and Mincy battled for that left tackle position, so now it seems like Josh Heupel has a place for both of them. Ryan Hughes with a comment, and by the way, you can leave comments on our social media pages. I'm about to read Ryan's right now off of Facebook, so whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment or a question, and I'll try my best to give an answer. So Ryan says, I can't wait to see what they do with Cameron Seldon, running back wide receiver. I think the kid might be so good that they keep him off the field. Also to see Thornton in this offense. Also excited about some of the young secondary and the new linebackers, Arian Carter and grad transfer Peli, and the second year Caleb Herron. Yeah, those are great great questions, or not a question, but a great comment there, Ryan. Yeah, some young players. And yeah, next point I'm going to make here is we're seeing a lot of young talent, like I said, really stepping up. And he mentioned on the defensive side, Arian Carter, a lot of praise for him. Peli, the transfer from BYU, one of two transfers from BYU on the Cincy football team. Cameron Seldon, another one, kind of doing that running back and wide receiver combo, figuring out where he might be, maybe like a gimmick player out there, but definitely a good point there, Ryan. A lot of good stuff going on. Mentioned, Mincy's moved to the right side, Jeremiah Crawford to the left side. And I'm hearing good stuff from Andre Carrick, transferred from Texas. Seems like he's kind of maybe a starter come fall time. We'll see where that goes. And then moving on to the defensive side, just hearing from the scrimmages and some of the practices going on. I'm hearing the defense looks really good, even from my source. Defense looks really good, especially the defensive backs look legit. That's his words, and I hope he's right. He says there is great improvement in the secondary. Now he's saying it's not polished yet, but it's definitely leaps and bounds better than last year. Of course, last year we were in the bottom 100s in secondary. But he said Danico Slaughter looked really good. Jalen McCullough looks fine in the safety along with Wesley Walker. And then Ricky Gibson is getting a lot of buzz out of spring camp. So looks like he may be getting some playing time along the way. Uh, like I said, once I break down the roster, we'll dive into a little bit more of it. But that's kind of some good stuff there, or good to hear about that. Ryan, you already mentioned the linebackers. Arian Carter. I think Arian Carter. I don't know if he'll be starting first game, but I could see Arian Carter maybe starting down the line at linebacker. Now, granted, linebackers are pretty. There's not a lot of. Obviously, there's two starting linebacker positions, and Aaron Beasley, who's the best, is going to be the quarterback of that defense. He's not giving up that spot, and then Pila from BYU. But Aaron Carter may. He may. God forbid if anybody gets injured. He will probably end up filling that slot somewhere along the way. But it's good to see kind of a young player that's really taken a step up as far as contending for a starting spot. And maybe Aaron Beasley can teach the young Arian Carter that middle linebacker position and train him and develop him. And then when Aaron Beasley goes off to the NFL or wherever, then Carter will be ready to go in 2024. Elijah Herring, I'm hearing good stuff about also in the linebacker position too. So good stuff to hear. Caleb Perry doing well too. All right, so let's kind of start back at the top again. We'll break down every player on the 2023 roster. Now, I'm not going to give stats and details because obviously some of these players, and then some of these players I'm going to announce. I'm just going to read off the name because they're on a roster spot, but I don't expect them to play in the fall. So start with quarterbacks. Joe Milton returning back. Every Tennessee fan knows who Joe Milton is. Started right after Hendon Hooker's ACL injury. Of course, he ended up starting back in 2021 and then lost to Hendon Hooker. Stayed with us, and then when Hendon Hooker went out, Joe Milton came aboard. Got the win in the Vanderbilt game, the last game of the year, and then there was a lot of, I guess, anxiousness of that Orange Bowl with Clemson, but he proved all the doubters wrong and had a fantastic Orange Bowl, won the Orange Bowl MVP. And right now, Joe Milton is QB1, even with the conflicting reports come out of spring camp that he didn't look good in the first scrimmage. But he's definitely the most experienced quarterback that we have right now. So, he's got a cannon of an arm. We all know that. It's been trended on social media of him throwing oranges and throwing basketballs and everything else. So we know the strength of his arm he's got. It's just the accuracy. That's going to be the key factor coming along the way, and we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see what happens. Ryan says, "Overthrow Joe, I'm pulling for you." Absolutely. Nico Iamaleava. I hope I'm saying this is right. His last name right. But Nico, I already mentioned in the practice report, looking really good, looking the part. I think he'll be the backup quarterback. Who knows what happens down the road if he ends up taking the starting spot from Joe? Obviously, depends on what happens in the season. And I'm not trying to root against Joe Milton to lose his starting job. I want him to start every game and every game that he's at Tennessee. But there's going. I mean, the way college football is today and the way social media works. The first little mistake Joe Milton messes up, you're going to hear "We want Nico, and "We want Nico" trending. So it's just, unfortunately, the way college football is, but it's just the reality of the situation. But Nico, the highly talented five-star quarterback from California, true freshman. Joe Cool himself, very laid-back attitude. I mean, I think we all know who Nico is, but definitely. I'm definitely excited to see how he looks in the orange and white game, although there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when you watch the orange and white game, and even when you go up there this year, if you do plan on going it. It's not the most exciting football, but it's definitely cool just to see the orange and white back out in Neyland Stadium. Then your backups, Gaston Moore, he's been around for a little bit. He'll be your third string quarterback, and then he's Schuler's son, Navy Schuler. Of course, he transferred from Appalachian State. Now with the Big Orange, this is his second season. And matter of fact, Navy Schuler changed his jersey number to number 21, like his dad. So that's pretty cool to see. Running backs, Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, all coming back. Jalen Wright, I forgot to mention this in the practice report. He got banged up in spring camp, so he's missing some time. So who knows if he'll play in the orange and white game? Wouldn't shock me if he doesn't. Obviously, you want to get everybody healthy going forward in the fall. But they're back. We all kind of know. We already know what to expect from Small and Wright, and Dylan Sampson really broke through as a true freshman last year, and now and I heard in the practice reports, including the scrimmage, he had a really nice cut in one of his runs and took off for a long distance play, and so that's good to see. That definitely you still got that depth at running back, and then Ryan mentioned Cameron Selden. I believe hearing some good stuff about him, and you can have, like I said, have that four-headed monster at running back. Uh, Obviously, pending injuries, and it's going to happen. But I wish everyone stay healthy all season. I'm sure Selden will see some playing time, and we all kind of know, the unfortunately Jabari Smile kind of has the injury bug with him. But want him to stay healthy all the way. Deshaun Bishop, another freshman. And then other running backs includes redshirt sophomore Patrick Wilkes, redshirt freshman Hunter Barnes, and that's it on the running backs. But definitely a lot of depth in this running back room. Uh, you know, Veteran players that's been in this Josh Heupel system for a couple of years now, and now you got some potential impact freshmen coming aboard, particularly Cameron Selden. Forgot to mention this too. Tennessee does. I think everybody kind of knows we have a new offensive coordinator, Joey Hazel, promoted from quarterback coach. I think he's still the quarterback coach over to offensive coordinator as Alex Golesh is now took the head coaching job at South Florida. So promoting from within. Of course, we all kind of know, wink, wink, this is Josh Heupel's offense, and he's kind of really still calling the shots. But Joey Hassel a part of that too. So wide receivers, I already mentioned. We already know Brew McCoy. Everybody's anticipating Brew McCoy to have that breakout season, especially the trend we've had the last couple of years. Cedric Tillman in Josh Heupel's first year had a breakout season, 1,000-yard season, and could have went to the NFL, but he came back. I thought he would have been the Blitnikoff Award winner or Blitnikoff finalist, but unfortunately got injured in that Akron game and was kind of in and out of the lineup. But thankfully, Jalen Hyatt, took the reins in this, last year and ended up winning the Blitnikoff. So you go from Cedric Tillman to Jalen Hyatt, and now Brew McCoy. All eyes on Brew McCoy going into the season. So yes, he's been injured in spring camp. I don't expect that to play dividends into the fall. This is definitely Brew's year to really make a big impact. I expect him to get a lot of preseason All SEC honors and at the wide receiver position because of what happened with Tillman and Hyatt. And there's a lot on this young man, and I think he's lived up to expectation, especially what he's went through with USC and now coming, trying to get to Tennessee and then being at Tennessee. I think he's got a clear head, and I believe he will do well. Squirrel White, kind of a fan favorite from last year's team, had the touchdown in the Orange Bowl. He's been kind of the main wide receiver in spring camp, and probably will be in the Orange and White game. Obviously, he'll be starting. Probably be on the outside with Brew McCoy. I'm excited to see Squirrel again. He's got speed. He can catch it. The spot, he's only, 5'7", 5'8", something like that. But hey, that as long as he can play football, it's all that matters. And I really like Squirrel White, and I can't wait to see what he does this upcoming season. Ramel Keaton, another guy been banged up mostly in spring camp. He'll be back. He'll probably be in the slot position. They have, according to Outlands.com, where I usually get the depth charts from, he'll probably be in that slot position. So we'll see how it goes. But, and of course, we kind of know with Josh Heupel's offense, you don't see a lot of rotations in the wide receivers. It's I mean, you don't have time. You've only got 5 seconds, and boom, you're snapping the ball. So, I expect to see if everybody's healthy, or what package they run. You're probably going to see Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton as the three wide receivers lining up, and then eventually you're going to have to find a way to work in Dante Thornton. Next guy I'm going to focus on, transfer from Oregon. Uh, we've already seen transferred wide receivers do very well in Josh Heupel's offense. With Javante Payton from Mississippi State in Josh Heupel's first season, and Velus Jones also a part of that, and uh, you know, continuing on the trend. Ryan says McCoy, White, and Keaton is strong. Plus Thornton, I love. Yeah, that's a good four wide receiver core there, Ryan. I apologize for my headset. I hadn't worn it in a while. It's been a while since I've worn it. Anyways, yeah, that's a good four wide receiver core, and you can put up some major numbers with that. I mean, we've seen it obviously last couple of years with the wide receivers that's now no longer with us, but I still think they could put up some big time numbers, and just depends on what Joe does. And like I said, we don't have Henry Hooker at quarterback, but you still feel very confident in what Josh Heupel can dial up, what Joey Hazel can dial up, and you know how fast this offense is going to go. So very excited to see that. The freshman wide receivers, I already mentioned Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb, Nathan Leacock. I think you're going to see some playing time with them. Obviously, in mop-up duty, you'll definitely see them out there getting some plays. And it wouldn't shock me if all three of these guys get multiple touchdowns this season, just kind of the way the offense flows and how we score so many points. So, I mean, it'd be nice if Brew and Squirrel and Keaton all get 10 touchdowns a season, and maybe Dante Thornton, but we know that doesn't happen. But a lot of depth in this wide receiver rooms, and then the rest of the roster: Michael Bittner, Jack Janzik. It feels like he's been here forever. Nigel Ladner, Dayton Sneed, and Trey Weary. So that wraps up the wide receiver room. All right, tight ends. We'll go through these really quick here, so I'm not kind of boring y'all. Jacob Warren back at tight end. He was supposed to be my impact player last year that was going to really break out and just never come to fruition. Dropped some balls last year in crucial situations, so hopefully Jacob can really break through and make my prediction kind of look right. McAllen Castles, a lot of people's really liking this kid from UC Davis. And speaking of Davis, Ethan Davis, the talented high school tight end from a couple of years ago, and still talented his senior year. It's just unfortunate he tore his ACL in his senior season. But Ethan Davis is back out on the playing field. Seems like the ACL is healed up, and he's ready to rock and roll. And I can't wait to see how he does in the orange and white game. Pending what happens with Jacob Warren down the road, like I said, I hope he has a great season and stays in the lineup. But it wouldn't shock me to see Castles and Ethan Davis kind of the two tight end set. If obviously you're gonna have a three receiver set, but if those two tight ends may be either in at the same time or maybe swap in and out if they go down that way. A lot of tight ends, but I'm just gonna read these names. I don't expect them to contribute much. Cody Duncan, Charlie Browder, Luke Shows, Hunter Salomon, and Titus Rower. So there's some tight ends there, but I'm sure some of these players may end up switching positions once we get into fall camp. Offensive line. Like I said, I'm going to go through it kind of quick too. Jeremiah Crawford, where you mentioned him. Looks like he's starting at left tackle. Gerald Mincy on the right side. Replacing Darnell Wright. And by the way, good luck to Darnell Wright and Hendon Hooker and everybody else getting ready for the NFL draft coming up next month. Excited to see where our Vols will land there. Andretz Kurik, I hope I'm saying that right. Transfer from Texas. Looks like he'll probably end up starting. Cooper Mays is back. Hopefully for a healthy season. He did kind of have a healthy season last year. But expect him to be a all-SEC offensive lineman. Javante Spraggins, another veteran offensive lineman that was really good last year. A lot of hype coming in also for John Campbell Jr., the transfer from Miami. Excited to see what he can do and plug into that line. And then others, I mean, there's a bunch of offensive linemen on this team. Dane Davis, bless his heart, knee braces and all, he's coming back. I love the heart of this kid, but my goodness, it feels like he gets injured quite a bit, and I hope for a healthy season for him. But yeah, Masai Reddick, Visine Lane, Jackson Lampley played a little bit last year. Uh, you know, I'm kind of surprised he's kind of not contending in that starting lineup, and maybe if you can replace Carrick with Jackson Lampley on the line, but we'll see where it goes. Braden Kurovach, Mo Clipper Jr., Parker Bell, Connor Meadows, Aston Nichols, Brian Grant, Shamron Uveron. I'm excited to see what he can do. Uh, Hearing some good stuff that he's got good size on him. Uh, but he's still very young, still trying to learn the system. Probably redshirt this year, but a name to kind of watch out for in the future. Shamaron Umarov, and then Larry Johnson, the third JUCO transfer uh, on the offensive line. So that's kind of look briefly through the offensive line. Uh, Switching over to the D side, the defensive side, defensive end Tyler Barron returns back. Excited to see what he can do. Amari Thomas, Big O. I expect a big season from Big O. Amari Thomas. Cannot wait to see what he does. Brian Eason on the defensive tackle, and then the edge rusher, or as the Tennessee defense calls it, the Leo position. This is where Brian Young was last year. They have it listed on the unofficial depth chart, Roman Harrison to take that spot. So a big shoes to fill for Roman Harrison, but I think he can get the job done. And then the rest of this defensive line, I'm very excited about. I think this is the strength of the defense. You got Tyree West coming back, Dejon Terry, Karot Garland, Elijah Simpson, Dominic Bailey, and then Tennessee picked up a transfer in Omar Norman Lott from Arizona State. So a lot of familiar names on this defensive line. Of course, Rodney Garner, the best defensive line coach in college football. I mean, you have to be ready to play if you got Rodney Garner as your coach, and he's going to develop you. He's going to coach you hard. He's going to run you through the gauntlet, but at the same time, he's going to love you and hug you on your neck all night long too. So, excited about him. Jonathan Joseph's another guy that who could be probably contend for that edge rusher job that Roman Harrison kind of currently has. And then James Pierce Jr., another name that a lot of people are very excited about. They think a lot of people think he can be an impact player coming up. Uh, he may end up passing Joseph and Harrison. Who knows? But here. He's really put on the weight in the off season, and he looks like a grown man, and I'm excited about that. The rest of the defensive line: Caleb Herron, Isaac Green, Cameron Douglas, Joshua Helston. Can't read my own writing there. Marion McNeil, Nathan Robinson, Austin Lewis, and Jason Jenkins. Caleb Herron, of course, will probably be in that rotation a little bit too, but just trying to find positions for players. Shout out to my mom. Left a thumb up. All right, linebackers. Aaron Beasley. This is our quarterback of our defense. And last year, I guess you could say Jeremy Banks was kind of that position, but times his leadership skills can may not show up from time to time. Same thing with Jawan Mitchell. Of course, now both are gone their own ways. Banks ran out of eligibility, and then Jawan Mitchell's in the transfer portal. But Aaron Beasley, I'm excited to see what Aaron Beasley can do. I think Aaron Beasley could have an All-American season. I mean, like I said, he's the quarterback of this defense. He's going to direct everybody in that huddle, and I think he can have a great season. I'm excited to see what he can do. He doesn't seem like he gets hurt a lot, and I'm just excited to see what he does. He's definitely going to be my breakout player. Aaron Carter, Ryan mentioned this in the comments. I expect him to play sometime throughout the year. Caleb Perry, I'm excited about him. I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but excitement is what I'm really trying to drive home the point here on the defense. Just a lot of good veteran players, and then a lot of up and coming players that will be contributors. Keenan Pili from BYU will be probably the other starting linebacker. Of course, Tennessee only runs two linebackers because they run the 4-2-5 defense. Elijah Herring, I think he'll play quite a bit. Jalen Smith would shock me if he plays quite a bit too in this linebacker core. Besides Aaron Beasley, I kind of expect to see maybe Josh Heupel and Tim Banks, who returns back as defensive coordinator. I expect them to probably tinker around the linebacking core, except for Beasley, maybe the first couple of games, and then probably by Florida, which will be week 3. Then they'll figure out, okay, it's Beasley and X player, and we're going to run with that, and then we may swap out. Depends on what the offense kind of runs. And then the rest of the linebackers: Quasi Garland, Jeremiah Lander, Jalen Smith, Will Albright, Makai Bigelow, Ben Bolton, and Caleb Williams. All right, defensive secondary. This is one I think a lot of people are very anxious about. Obviously, we know what happened with the secondary last year, near the bottom of the SEC, maybe at the bottom of the SEC as far as passing yardage goes. And this is a team that won 10 games last year. Imagine if we didn't have that Josh Heupel offense. Yeah, it'd have been a pretty rough season. But Jalen McCullough, Tank McCullough, returns back. Excited to see him back. I think he's definitely the best player in that secondary, no doubt about it. But the rest of the safeties I do like. Wesley Walker will probably be the other safety, and then Tamari McDonald will be in the star position. So I'm confident in that. The corners is going to be the big question, kind of like last year. You got Danico Slaughter right now listed as a corner, and then you also have very sure who the other one was. I have Warren Burrell, but I don't see Warren Burrell starting. It would probably be Danico Slaughter and maybe Jordan Matthews, maybe Andre Turrentine. It's kind of up in the air of who's going to start at the corner positions, but you do have Slaughter. You got Warren Burrell coming back. He did get injured. He started and gave up a lot of yardage, but a lot of players did last year. Andre Turrentine, he was the transfer from Ohio State. Saw the field a little bit, but didn't really make a huge impact. You got John Slaughter also on the team. Jordan Thomas, I'm hearing some good stuff about. The sophomore might contribute. Cameron Miller, Christian Charles. That was the other one. It was Gay Judy Lally from BYU. Okay, now I see it in my notes. He was also listed as the other corner, and I just now remember because according to the depth chart, unofficial depth chart, they have Gay Judy Lally listed as a corner, and then right behind him was Kamal Haddon and Brandon Turnage. And the point I was going to make, I just now thought of it, was it's crazy to think Kamal Haddon and Brandon Turnage was two transfers, both from Alabama and Auburn, and you're thinking, man, they're going to make a huge impact on this Tennessee secondary, and now you look at a third transfer and Gay Judy Lally from BYU, and it looks like he's probably going to win that starting job over both of them. So, all right. So there. Glad we cleared that up. A little muddy, but we cleared it up. Others in the secondary, we mentioned Ricky Gibson. Seems like he's really done very well, obviously. Malik Ganaway, Derek Taylor, Will Brooks, William Wright, Montreal Bandy, Jared Gentry, Christian Harrison, that is Rodney Harrison's son. Deshaun Rucker, who saw the field a little bit last year, coming back along with Christian Conyer. Jack Luttrell played at Knox Catholic High School, one of the freshmen, and then Carson Whitehead also on this team. And then, out of curiosity, if you want to know the secondary, your long snappers, Matthew Solansky, who feels like he's played at Tennessee since the 1940s. He's back at long snapper, along with Bennett Brady and Alton Stevens. Your kickers and punters going to be different. Obviously, the hero last year in Alabama's game, Chase McGrath, outrun out of eligibility. I think he'll probably be on an NFL roster somewhere. But Charles Campbell, transfer from Indiana, will probably be your starting kicker. You also have uh, Josh Turbeville, who was listed as punter and place kicker, JT Carville, Matt Gilbert. And then your punters, you got the Australian punter, Jackson Ross, uh, which I believe that may be the first time Tennessee's had one that I recall. It looks like it's going to be kind of a battle between him and Colby Morgan. Probably Ross will probably get the starting nod. Uh, so that's kind of a long ways off there. But good thing is if you're having position battles with kickers and punters and you're pretty much settled with the rest of the team, that's a good sign of a good team. So that's a look at kind of your Tennessee spring roster. Like I said, we'll once we get to the orange and white game and then obviously we go into the summer months and then we go into fall camp, then it'll start to be clear who's really ready. But I'm excited about the orange and white game. Vol Society will be there on April the 15th, so hope to get some more inside scoops of that and maybe some cool stuff with the social media account. So excited about that. But that's a look at the roster. Uh, Real quickly, this is not a prediction for the season, but I'll kind of read the schedule out loud here. If you may or may not know, Tennessee opens the season September the 2nd in Nashville, Tennessee at Nissan Stadium, which will be transitioned to the new stadium sometime down the road. But they'll take on the Virginia Cavaliers from the ACC. Virginia did not have a great season at all last year, and unfortunately, uh, we all know what happened on campus last season with a tragic event that happened. And this will be the first game that they played since that event happened. So be a lot of emotion for them kind of going into that first game. But I think Tennessee, like I said, I think Tennessee should stack up well with them. And then September the 9th, the home opener against Austin P. And then September 16th, first road game at Florida. Uh, Florida, like I said, to me, they kind of feel like they're in neutral right now. I don't see really improvement, but I don't see any decline with them. Looks like they're going to run with Graham Martz, the quarterback from Wisconsin, as their starting quarterback. Good luck to that. I mean, I think Tennessee will probably be in a battle down on the road at Florida on the 16th, but I think Tennessee will probably be a pretty overwhelming favorite to win that game. And Tennessee hasn't won at the Swamp since 2003, if I'm not mistaken on that one. So be 20 years since we've won down there. I mean, we got our first win at home at the Swamp or in Knoxville against Florida in a few years, and like I said, but the Swamp has ate us alive many a times. September 23rd against UTSA. That's not a pushover game, folks. I mean, you look at the schedule, you're thinking, okay, Florida and South Carolina sandwich, and you got this team UTSA. UTSA finished in the top 25 last year. I mean, they're back-to-back Conference USA champions. They got their quarterback coming back next year. So this is not going to be just a walk in the park, go in there and win by 50. This Tennessee needs to take this game seriously. And like I said, the following week you got South Carolina, so Tennessee does not need to overlook UTSA to focus on South Carolina in the revenge game. So, and I think this team will probably should know that by now. I mean, maybe not a lot of casual college football fans know how good UTSA is, but a lot of more passionate fans do know. They're fairly talented. And then September 30th, a game I think a lot of fans are actually circling on the calendar. I mean, besides Florida and Bama and Georgia, is the South Carolina game, September the 30th. This game just gets all over the schedule. We usually play them either in November, and we played them in October. Now we're playing them in early September, or late September to be exact. But this is the revenge game for Tennessee fans. You get them at home. We all know what happened when we went down to Columbia. We got just put through the wood chipper, and unfortunately, Hendon Hooker's season ended, and our college football playoff hopes ended that night too. I think Tennessee's going to be fired up, ready to go. Obviously, Brad's buddy Shane Beamer's going to be ready to go in that one. I expect a lot of funny sound bites out of this game coming up, mainly from the South Carolina side. But yeah, I think a lot of fans are very excited about that one. no, October the 7th is a bye week. I don't know why I wrote BYU down. It's supposed to be a bye week. So you get the bye week, and then the 14th of October you take on Texas A&M. Besides, excuse me, the COVID season, this is the official first trip for Texas A&M up to Neyland Stadium. Uh, Texas A&M's got a lot of question marks, especially what happened last year. Top preseason top five team that didn't even make a bowl game. Was that just a 1 year hiccup, or is there really problems down at College Station? Jimbo Fisher turning over the offensive play calling over to former Arkansas head coach and Louisville head coach and everybody's head coach Bobby Petrino. So we'll see what he can dial up. I still think this Texas A&M team is still very talented, and I think this is this is not going to be another pushover game. I think this is going to be a very exciting game, especially since Tennessee has a big opponent coming up the next week, and we'll mention that. Third Saturday in October, down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We talked about Tennessee has the revenge factor on South Carolina. You definitely know Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide has the revenge factor on Tennessee. It'd be very sweet to get 2 wins in a row over Alabama, but it's going to be a very tall task, and I know Saban doesn't forget stuff like that. So, be a fun game down there. And then another road game on the 28th at Kentucky. Kentucky, last year came to Knoxville and just had a nightmare of a game under the lights at Neyland. The dark mode jerseys, yeah, that was the game of the dark mode jerseys, and they saw ghosts and not witches and ghoulings all night long. On that was the week before Halloween, or that weekend of Halloween, and so Will Levis heading off to the NFL, going to be a top draft pick, even though I think it's a mistake, but that's another podcast and live stream for another day. But Devin Leary, former NC State quarterback, now at Kentucky, so it's going to be, I think it'll be a tough road environment, especially how much Tennessee has left in the tank after playing Alabama the week before and then turn around playing Kentucky on the road the following week. But we'll see. And then November usually cools off, except for one game. Homecoming November the 4th against UConn, a team that made a bowl game. Jim Mora really turned this program around. This was like a 1-2 win team every year and got them to a bowl game last year. And I expect Tennessee to take care of business in that one. November the 11th at Missouri, I think Tennessee should win pretty big there. And then if the South Carolina game was not circled on your calendar, this is the one everybody's circling on the calendar. November the 18th, Neyland Stadium. The two-time back-to-back national champion Georgia Bulldogs come to town. This is a huge weekend right here. This is what we saw last year with Florida and with Alabama. If Tennessee, well, I expect if Tennessee goes into this contest with one loss, and they don't lose to Florida, South Carolina, or Kentucky, this is a huge game, and the winner punches their ticket to Atlanta. I expect Georgia to probably be undefeated going into this contest, and they could possibly be the three-peat national champions at this point. But this is a huge game coming up on November the 18th when Georgia and Tennessee meets in Neyland Stadium. We know what happened last year. Georgia got the win at home, but you're going to have a wild and crazy atmosphere, wild and crazy fans that Saturday, and it's going to be exciting to see. I mean, and if Tennessee pulls off this win, my goodness, we may have to get Randy Boyd to pay us some more field goal posts. I hope. I guess, yeah. You know what? That'd be awesome to see. And then the final game, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, the annual battle with Vanderbilt. We all know what's going to happen in that one. Tennessee should win that one. So that's kind of a look at the schedule. This is not a prediction. This is just kind of a look at the schedule. We'll get into the season predictions on the podcast at Ball Society Live once we get closer to the season. And then we'll wrap up here with recruiting. Uh, 2024 recruiting, like I said, high school football, even though we're still a few months away from that, but the recruits are starting to leak out their top five, top 10 list, top three. So we'll start with the so far that's been announced with the 2024 class for Tennessee. Jake Merricker, who was just committed to Tennessee, quarterback, 6'3", 195 from Savannah, Georgia. Uh, a lot of hype, a lot of excitement about this young man coming aboard. He's the latest, like I said, the latest commitment for Tennessee. Jonathan Eccles, who committed back on the 4th of July last year after we missed out on, oh, his name just slipped out of my head. Kid that went to Miami. It doesn't matter. He's not on the team. But Eccles, 6'4", 230 pound from Branson, Florida, played at IMG Academy, an athlete listed. Wide receiver J.J. Harrell, 6 foot, 187 pounds from Mississippi. Caleb Beasley. Some may say, well, a lot of people thought this kid was the number one player in the state of Tennessee. I think there's somebody else down at Bradner High School that may take that crown for this year, but we'll see. But he's a defensive back, 6 foot, 179 pounds from Nashville, Tennessee. Plays at I think Lipscomb Academy. That's where Trent Dilfer was, and now he's at UAB. And I think Jason Witten took over that head coaching job. Marcus Gorey Jr., athlete from Cleveland, Tennessee, plays at Bradley Central, 6 foot and a half, 177 pounds. And then defensive lineman Carson Gentle, 6'3", 241 from Chattanooga, Tennessee, plays at McCallie. So that's who's on the Tennessee commit list for 2024. 6 players, like I said, obviously recruiting's going to be hot and heavy coming up in the summers. And then some of the targets Tennessee's looking out for. Boo Carter, we'll go ahead and mention him right out of the gate from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Played at Chattanooga Christian, now playing at Brainerd High School in the upcoming fall. I think this is probably the top target Tennessee's looking at. Seems like it's coming down to him in Colorado. Depends on what you read. It's like Tennessee's a heavy favorite, and then you'll read he's cooled off Tennessee. So, I think it's going to come down to the 11th hour, and we'll find out where Boo goes, and wish him the best in his decisions and all that. Others, KJ Bolden, the number one safety in the 2024 class. Everybody wants him, including Tennessee. Doesn't look like Tennessee's kind of really in a serious run through KJ's choices, but who knows? Maybe they'll turn it around. Mike Matthews, number 2 wide receiver from Georgia, Littlebird, Georgia. He just visited, I think, this week at UT, or maybe last week. So Tennessee very high on him. Ryan Wingo, the number 4 wide receiver, they're also looking at him. Sammy Brown, number 1 linebacker in the country. Our founder Brad met him last year at the Vol Walk during the Tennessee-Florida game. It seems like it's coming down to Georgia with him, but anything can happen. These are high school kids. So Jarrett Gibson, number 1 running back in the country. Very strong consideration between Tennessee could pick him up. It looks like it's coming down between the Vols and Texas to get Jarrett Gibson. Man, that'd be huge to get him. But we'll see what happens along the way. Tennessee, we already mentioned Merrick Ingram, Jonathan Eccles, Harrell, Beasley, all have been committed. Edwin Spillman, his brother plays on the team, linebacker. Looks like he's heavily favored towards Tennessee. And a few others along the way, like a Daniel Calhoun and a Jaden Redler. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, once the summer really gets going, we'll really see where these players are really seriously considering. And, like I said, we'll get a clearer picture, obviously. But like I said, this just kind of gives us a view of where Tennessee's looking at in the recruiting and going into spring camp. But that's a look at Tennessee spring practice. Like I said, the orange and white game coming up Saturday, April the 15th. I believe that's a 2:30 start, if I'm not mistaken. Vol Society will be there. that day, and I'll be up there and look forward to it. Try to bring you some content with that. Like I said, next Vol Society Live will be back here probably in another couple of weeks. A week, yeah, next couple of weeks here. I'll figure out what day I'm going to do it, either on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Depends on what my schedule's looking like. But check the Facebook page, check all our YouTube, Twitter. We'll send the link out when we do go live, and like I said, you can join us there. We'll talk some Tennessee baseball. Like I said, Vols got a big weekend series coming up as the number 3 Florida Gators come to Knoxville. And like I said, the next time when we join us on Vol Society Live, we'll really break down the Tennessee baseball team and kind of give where we're at this point. Like I said, busy time with Tennessee athletics doing very well, baseball doing very well, softball doing excellent, basketball's in the rearview mirror. Quick note here: Olivier Comwad, yes, he did hit the transfer portal, so bit surprising but not shocking. So best of luck to Olivier and wherever he goes. And like I said, we'll dive more into basketball once we have the strength and the ability to talk about it. I guess same thing with the Lady Balls. But in all seriousness, we'll dive into more of that. But like I said, we'll be back here in a couple of weeks. We're gonna dive more into Tennessee baseball, see where the Vols are at, look at how they look as far as a potential trip to Omaha. I think it looks really well, and the seedings and stuff like that. So, like I said, this was more of, like I said, tonight we previewed the football team, Orange and White game coming up in 10 days. I can't wait to see that, and like I said, I can't wait to talk to y'all here in a couple of weeks as we talk about Tennessee baseball. Until then, this is David Morrison for the Vol Society Network. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Tammy and Alana leaving us a like, along with my dad and mom and Ryan. Like I said, if you missed any of the live stream, make sure you go back and rewatch it, share it out to all Vol fans. Like I said, Tennessee football will be here before you know it. Like I said, get spring ball out of the way, and then we enjoy the summer, and then it'll be football time in Tennessee once you know it. And then the podcast will be back with Brad and David Ease and myself. And like I said, I'm ready to go. But thank you for tuning us in tonight. We'll talk to y'all later here in a couple of weeks as we talk some Tennessee baseball. Until then, David Morrison saying have a great night and go Vols.